What is inflation? Inflation is the general and continuous increase in the prices of goods and services over a certain period of time. In other words, when inflation occurs, the value of money decreases, you can buy less with the same amount of money. Simple example here. If a bag of chips costs $1 this year, and next year it rises to $1.10, then the inflation rate is 10%. Main causes of inflation. 1. Demand pull inflation. Occurs when demand for goods and services exceeds supply. Example, when consumers have more money and buy more things, but production can't keep up, prices rise. 2. Cost push inflation. Happens when the cost of production, like raw materials or wages, increases, causing producers to raise prices to maintain profit margins. 3. Built-in inflation. Results from the expectation of future inflation. Workers demand higher wages to keep up with rising costs of living, and companies raise prices to cover those higher wages, creating a cycle. Types of inflation. Inflation is commonly classified into 4 levels, based on how severe it is. Low inflation. Inflation rate. Less than 10% per year. Prices increase gradually and steadily. This type of inflation is usually considered healthy for economic growth. It encourages spending and investment. Impact. Not harmful. Consumers may not even notice it much. Central banks usually tolerate low inflation around 2 to 3%. 2. Moderate inflation. Inflation rate. Between 10% and 30% per year. Prices rise more noticeably. Purchasing power begins to decline, and consumers start to feel the pressure in their daily expenses. Impact. Savings start to lose value. Investment returns may be outpaced by inflation. May lead to wage demands and tension in labor markets. 3. High inflation. Inflation rate. Between 30% and 100% per year. Prices are soaring. The cost of goods and services increases rapidly, and money loses its value at an alarming rate. Impact. Salaries can't keep up. Savings become nearly worthless. People rush to convert cash into real assets, like gold, real estate, or foreign currency. Erosion of trust in the national currency. 4. Hyperinflation. Inflation rate. Over 100% per year can reach thousands or even millions of percent. A rare but extreme situation where prices double or triple within days or even hours. The currency totally becomes worthless and basic goods are unaffordable. Examples. Germany in 1923, the price of bread went from 250 marks to 200 billion marks. Zimbabwe in 2008, inflation reached 89.7 sextillion percent. Venezuela in 2010, prices skyrocketed every few hours, shelves went empty. Impact. People use wheelbarrows full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Governments collapse or lose legitimacy. Citizens resort to barter or foreign currencies. Complete breakdown of economic systems. How to fix inflation. The way to save an economy from inflation varies greatly depending on the severity of the inflation. Governments and central banks will adopt different strategies. Let's start with low inflation. The goal is to keep inflation stable, avoid falling into deflation or price decrease, and prevent it from rising into high inflation. Minimal intervention, as it's considered healthy for economic growth. Low interest rate policy. Encourages consumption and investment. Ensure smooth supply and distribution of goods. Active monitoring by the central bank, ready to raise interest rates if inflation starts rising too fast. Examples of countries with low inflation rates. Japan in 2024 had a 2% inflation rate. Switzerland in 2024 had a 1.5% inflation rate. Moderate and high inflation. Moderate and high inflation group together as the strategies are similar, only differing in intensity and urgency. The goal is to bring inflation back to a healthy level. Protect public purchasing power. Prevent inflation from escalating into hyperinflation. Main solutions to fix moderate and high inflation. 1. Applying monetary policy. Raise interest rates to slows down consumption and borrowing. In the results, it will reduce price pressure. Reduce money supply by selling government bonds. 2. Fiscal policy. Cut non-essential public spending. Temporarily increase taxes to absorb excess money. Avoid printing new money because this worsening inflation. 3. Price and subsidy measures. Stabilize the prices of essential goods. Provide temporary subsidies for critical sectors like food and energy. Import goods if local supply is insufficient. 4. National coordination. Government, central bank, and private sector must act quickly and in sync. Ensure transparent economic data to prevent public panic. Examples of countries that successfully tamed moderate to high inflation: Brazil in 1990s and Turkey in 2010s. Hyperinflation. This is a full-blown crisis. Ordinary policies won't work anymore. The goal is to stop inflation immediately, restore trust in the currency, and rebuild the economic system. Radical solutions needed. 1. Total halt of money printing. Printing money is a poison. Must stop completely. Freeze all non-essential government spending. 2. Currency reform. Replace old currency with a new one or redenomination. Example: 1 million's old with 1 new. Zimbabwe and Germany have done this. 3. Use foreign currency. Country may adopt stable foreign currencies, such as the US dollar or euro. Example: Zimbabwe switched to the US dollar when hyperinflation struck them. 4. International support. Seek help from the IMF or World Bank. Emergency loans, food assistance, debt restructuring plans. 5. Total economic reform. Overhaul budgeting, taxation, and banking systems. Eliminate corruption and bureaucratic delays. Open up private sector and international trade. Examples of countries that survived hyperinflation: Germany in 1920s through currency reform. Zimbabwe in 2009 ended Zimbabwean dollar. Hungary in 1946, worst hyperinflation in history, recovered through redenomination and strict fiscal discipline. Alright, now it's time for the why. The part where we dive into the questions that might be circling inside your head right now. Why low inflation considered healthy if it constantly eats away our money? Because low inflation, seen as a sign of a growing economy. It encourages spending, investment, and borrowing rather than hoarding cash. If there's zero inflation, people stop spending, which slows down the economy. So governments accept a little inflation as the price for economic momentum. But make no mistake, still erodes your purchasing power every year. Why can't governments just freeze prices during inflation? Price freezes sound simple, but they lead to massive distortions. Producers stop selling if prices are too low. Scarcity increases. Black markets appear. This has happened in Venezuela and Soviet Russia. Freezing prices might delay inflation's symptoms, but it doesn't stop the cause. We've talked about what inflation is, what causes it, and how to fix it. But what if I told you that inflation isn't just an economic phenomenon? It's a lie. The lies that are made feel very real. Let's uncover the dark truths of inflation. Truths most people never hear. 1. Inflation data is often manipulated. Governments change how they measure inflation, remove volatile items, replace expensive products with cheaper substitutes, recalculate baskets of goods. The result? Official numbers stay low, even if real life feels expensive. 2. Governments quietly reduce their own debt through inflation. Inflation shrinks the value of fixed debts. So the more they inflate, the less they owe in real terms. It's like owing someone 1,000 chips, but over time, chips become cheaper. You still pay 1,000 chips when it's cheap and worthless. 3. Central banks can print unlimited money, but they don't suffer the consequence. You do. They can inject trillions into the economy, but when prices rise, it's your rent that goes up, your groceries that cost more, your wages that fall behind. The bankers and politicians? They're protected by assets, insider info, and influence. 4. Savings accounts can make you poorer during inflation. If you earn 2% interest but inflation is 6%, you're losing 4% every year by doing the safe thing. In other words, saving is not always saving. Sometimes it slows self-destruction. The last, and most important of all realities is that most people don't realize their money is losing value until it was too late. Inflation doesn't feel like a robbery. There's no thief in your house, no alarm. But 5 years later, your savings by 30% less. It's a theft, but in slow motion. They say, knowledge is power. But in today's economy, it's survival. If this video opened your eyes, imagine what the next one will do. Hit that like buttons if you like this video. Subscribe, and let's uncover what they don't want you to see.